Hello and welcome to Lights, Camera, Aggo, with a podcast with two friends and one film and very little agreement. I'm Phil, and in this week's podcast, you'll believe a man can fly.
And I'm Nicky. The door's open. Come in. We're back in our favourite coffee shop, and it is Phil's turn to share a movie he loves. Today he's chosen the 1978 film Superman.
Well, that will come soon enough, but how's your week been?
It's been good. I've got a house guest at the moment from Australia, so I am doing lots of touristy things around Liverpool, which is fun. And I'm doing lots of looking at graves of dead relatives, which is actually genuinely interesting. Well, it is fun actually. You know, it's interesting seeing the family history and all that. And yeah, I'm having a lot of. I'm sort of taking a bit of a time off from doing the writing, so I'm getting a bit of space. So yeah, I'm having a nice time at the moment. It's like being on holiday. You?
I've just been busy working. It's been a very busy period. Obviously, the hairdressing side, people are going on holiday and things like that. Been getting a bit of exercise in, losing a little bit of weight. Apparently, as you said earlier, I look quite toasty at the moment, a bit brown.
You do look like you've been in the sun. Yeah, defo.
So yeah, anyway, been good.
Excellent stuff. Before we start, remember, this is going to be full of spoilers. It always makes me laugh saying that when it's something from years ago. It's from 1978. I'm sure you've seen Superman. But if you haven't, no, I haven't.
You hadn't.
But if you haven't, like I hadn't, pause the pod, go and watch it, come back. We'll be waiting. So, Phil, why did you choose Superman?
Superman was the first film I'd ever seen on the cinema. I think it was in 1980. I think it was a re-release.
How old would you have been then, ish?
6.
Okay.
Yep. And it's always stuck with me. It's one of my favourite films. Christopher Reeve, one of my heroes. And I just think it's still to this day. It's a bit like Jaws. These stand up the test of time. You know, even though we've gone to all CGI films, you know, different types of special effects, it still looks good on the screen today. Superman, and the story, the script, really good.
So I had never seen it, as is the point of this podcast. But it's one of those films. They came out the year I was born, okay? So it's always been there in my life. And it's impossible to not have seen the parodies. It's impossible to have grown up and not have seen people dressed up as Superman for dress-up days, or hearing, you know, is it a bird, is it a play, all that stuff. It's just in the culture, isn't it? The other thing that's just so impossible to ignore, that I think I've got a reasonable appreciation of without seeing the film, is the music, the sort of the iconic, your face little, the iconic music. Yeah. So there's so much of it that when I started to watch bits of it, felt very familiar, even though this was a new film. So yeah, the other thing to point out from my perspective, my journey with Superman, is I'd never seen this, I'd never seen any of them, except I had watched sort of casually, not really properly, the Dean Cain thing, because that was Terry Hatcher.
Yeah.
It used to be on a Saturday morning when I was a youth. Is that what it was called?
I think so, yeah.
I used to have to get up every Saturday early for Music Centre, which is because I played the cello. And every Saturday morning I would be just waiting to leave to get dropped off, and I'd just watch what I was on the TV in the morning, and it was then. So I'm thinking that was like maybe 1992.
Yeah, it was in the 90s.
No, sorry. No, it might have been, but I'm thinking it was early because I was younger. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's my only understanding of Superman. So I did know there was a newspaper office, because I remember that, and I did know that there was Lois, and, you know, but no, not the film version anyway. All new.
So, we'll get started then. So the iconic opening, where it is in black and white,
yes,
is meant to invoke the old newsreels from back in the day, and then it goes through into colour, and then we start seeing the title credits come through with that iconic score.
Definitely.
From John Williams. I think, you know, he's done 3 of the biggest scores in movie history. It's the Star Wars, the Indiana Jones, and Superman, which I think are some of the most recognisable themes ever.
I would agree, because all I will say is I've sat I've sat in Sydney Opera House. Let's go there. Let me tell you, I've sat in Sydney Opera House and listened to an orchestra play an evening of John Williams stuff, and I've not seen any of the 3 films that you've just said, or at least I hadn't then.
Yeah.
And all that music is so familiar and so brilliant, and I had the best night. but didn't need to have seen the films. Iconic, I agree.
So we then treated to 5 minutes of opening title credits where the writing is swooshing towards the screen.
They did go on.
it was a while, and then we see the Kryptonian sun, the red sun. As the camera moves, you then see Krypton, which looks like an ice planet, and we're then treated to see Jor-El, which is played by Marlon Brando.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, if you adjusted for inflation, the amount of money Marlon Brando got for this scene in today's money, I mean, was it the movie for 4 minutes?
Too long, I'd say.
4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
90 million he will be paid in
Is that what it would be?
money.
Was it 15 at the time or something? I read.
It was something like 11 million
right,
at the time
okay.
or something.
Yeah.
Now this opening scene where you see they are got 3 criminals and about to put them into the disc to go to the Phantom Zone. This is actually a setup for Superman 2.
Okay.
Because they filmed Superman 1 and 2 back to back.
Right.
Richard Donner was the director. They sacked him halfway through filming a Superman 2 and replaced him with another director. His surname was Lester. But they got all these scenes done. So obviously you're probably watching it going, why the hell's Terrence stamping this for like 3 seconds?
I swear to God, it's the opening bit of this sort of very sci-fi thing. First of all, you know me, I'm not a fan of sci-fi really, so this kind of left me a bit cold. But I struggled to get what was going on. Ultimately, by the end of the chunk of this section, I got the gist of what I needed to know. But I didn't, all this sort of space trial courtroom, whatever it was, I had no clue who the people were. And I kept seeing these massive names. Obviously Marlon Brando, who I knew, but like, what's his name? Leslie Howard?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's not Leslie Howard, you edit that out. Trevor Howard?
Trevor Howard, yeah.
Not too mixed up with Leslie Howard. Trevor Howard, who is in Brief Encounter, and he's like, from several years before, in like I think that's the 1940s. Well, seeing Trevor Howard, who's a serious English actor, in this kind of slightly camp as tits space crime scene. Space opera. It's blew my mind. And then Terrence Stamp, he literally is like, I think it's the first name on the credits.
I think Gene Hackman was the first name.
Was he?
Gene Hackman.
Oh no, it's probably Marlon, isn't it? Yeah. I can't remember.
Anyway, so they get thrown off into the Phantom Zone, ready for Superman 2. We then cut to Jor-El talking to the council about Krypton's imminent destruction. They disbelieve him and order him and his wife not to leave Krypton. So he hatches a plan for his son Kal-El to be put into a spaceship and leave the planet, and he does so by putting a green crystal into the ship, which sets it off, and just as he's leaving the planet, the Krypton explodes.
Yes. So from the whole of this opening section, I didn't follow much, but I got the gist that they're basically sending their child to Earth, and that was kind of what I understood. I didn't really understand what the green, you called it a green crystal, I was writing green icicle all the way through my notes, so either way, whatever. I am aware, can I just point out at this point, that I am definitely not trying to trivialise the feelings of comic book fans everywhere. Okay, I realise that this is
You've done that within the first 10 minutes of this podcast.
No, I know, but
already.
it's like, the point of this is not like we're trying to give like huge kind of fandom stuff. This is, I've watched it. So the notes I'm reading from, I made for the first time I'd ever seen it. And there's loads of things that I don't understand, and there's lots of bits that I have questions about, and I'm sure those questions will have been debated at length, or there's simple answers I just don't know. Either way, this is me very much just first impressions.
Okay.
Just to put it out there so we know.
So, when the spaceship takes off, Kal-El is a baby.
Yes.
By the time he crash lands on Earth, I would say he's about 4 or 5, would you say?
Yeah.
So several years have passed as he's been travelling.
So I didn't get that. I thought that just time was really super quick in the weird thing he was travelling in. But it's only after reading things later where it's like, oh, he's been taught all these things over years.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that from the first watch of it, but I now understand.
So the spaceship crash lands onto planet Earth, and driving by and get a puncture is Jonathan and Martha Kent.
And they live in Hill Valley, where it's fields as far as the eye can see. Do you not think?
Well, they are farmers.
They are, but it's proper like Back to the Future, 1955.
Yes,
you know.
yeah, very, very much the vibe.
Yeah.
They spot the crash landed ship, which just looks like a bit like a meteorite type thing, and they see a very naked 4 or 5 year old.
Full frontal nudity.
Yeah, full frontal nudity. 4 or 5 year old boy come out, and Martha's trying to convince Jonathan at this point that they should keep him because he's not from around here.
Which is obviously the automatic thing you would do if you spot a child by the roadside.
Well,
surely we can have him. You know?
It is. They
didn't ask enough questions for my liking, and they didn't contact social services.
Well, at this moment, Jonathan is trying to repair the flat tyre, and the jack fails, and the truck is about to fall on Jonathan when infant Kal-El picks up the truck and stops it from hurting him. Both Jonathan and Martha look at each other and go, "Okay, we'll."
Still, they need to ask more questions and find out that
It doesn't need to go that deep, do it?
I know. I was going to say I struggled with that a little bit.
We then suddenly fast forward a few years to a teenage Clark Kent, as Kal-El is now known, in high school. It's just at the end of a football match. It's American football, not soccer for our American viewers. And Brad is a little bit of a dick and kicks over a bench so that he cannot come with them to a bit of a party they're going to.
Well, what I liked about this is, you see this super strong toddler in the scene before, and now you would assume that he is now like, star of the football team or whatever, and he's not. He's the towel boy or whatever the role is in that scenario.
I mean, you see later on in this section that Jonathan Kent has kept him on the down low because he's meant for greater things.
I really like how. So the sort of the boy, the football guy, the
Brad.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know the names of all these characters. You can point them out. But he's like the jock. He's the kind of the big sort of macho guy, and I just liked how the guy with the actual superpowers is playing it down and is humble and is not like the awful sexual predator probably that older guy is. Because
you actually do see that in Superman 3.
I would imagine. Well, the signs are there, and I liked how the girl who Clark is talking to is like inviting him to a thing. She can see he's a nice guy. Nice guys generally win in the end, and I like that was the origin story here.
And that character is revisited. Both of these two characters are revisited in Superman 3.
The girl and the boy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Played by different actors at the time.
I mean, I won't. If you ever make me watch Superman 3, I won't remember that, but okay.
Oh, Richard Pryor all the way, he's in that one.
Richard Pryor?
Yeah, he's in Superman 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you suddenly interested?
No,
anyway,
no, just, yeah. So many people in this are famous.
Clark, not Superman, sorry. Is very frustrated, so he kicks a football, which I just presume goes into space because he kicks it that
super
hard.
strong.
Yeah. He then decides he's going to piss off the jock, Brad, by running as fast as he can home, and he runs faster than a speeding train.
Oh yeah.
It's really interesting this because
it is good, this.
in that scene, the actor who was playing the younger Clark Kent, who I will just add at this moment, absolute perfect casting because he does look like he would grow up to be Christopher Reeve when you look at him.
Yeah, I think they had to make him look a bit like him, didn't they? I was reading that. Yeah, it's funny.
And they had him on wires in front of a pickup truck, driving the pickup truck really fast, and he had to just pretend he was running as fast as he can. Because if you look, his feet aren't even touching the floor. Right? I mean, it is 1978. But he gets home before Brad passes the car. And this is where his dad Jonathan says, "Come on, son, stop showing off.
Yeah,
you're meant for greater things."
I liked the dad. So all this section, we'll talk about the sections, I'm sure, at some point towards the end. All this section after the initial, these parents are weird because they've not asked enough questions and not contacted social services, I really liked him. So also, what kind of era is this supposed to be? I say 1950s just because it reminds me of Hill Valley 1955,
Yeah,
but is it supposed to be earlier than that?
Well, I think when they find him as a toddler, I think it is the sort of 50s. Because you've got to think, like, this was filmed in the 80s, so the 70s.
Yeah.
And by the time you see Superman, I think he is about 30, I think.
But I had loads of questions about the timeline, because when it starts off and you see, like, sorry, I'm going back right to the beginning here, but you know when it starts off and it shows the comic book being opened and it's sort of talking about, I'm sure they reference the 30s. But then obviously then they go into space and that who knows what time is that, and then they go to like this sort of this countryside-y Hill Valley place. I know it's not Hill Valley. But anyway, the point I'm making is the dad, Jonathan, as I now know, because you've just told me, he's actually not a buttoned-up, repressed, can't show affection to his child man that would have been the era of back then. So I really liked how he was able to show Clark that he was loved and give fatherly advice and, you know, a bit of joshing around and all that stuff. I liked him. And I thought he sort of broke through the stereotype of dad of that era. So, yes, I enjoyed him.
Yeah. For the brief moment, because Clark challenges him to a race up to the house, and unfortunately Jonathan suffers a heart attack and passes away.
I was so gutted at that. I was at that point genuinely into the story. I was gutted that he'd lost another dad.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, Jonathan passes away, which sort of kickstarts Clark to now start thinking, I need to find out more. After the funeral, he's in bed and suddenly the green crystal starts calling to him.
His green icicle.
Crystal. There'll be so many people writing
I know,
going, it's a crystal.
I know.
So it starts calling to him and he feels this urge to travel north.
There's that amazing shot of him.
Fields,
yeah.
I mean, the cinematography in this film is magical. You know?
It was just stunning. I don't know much. Well, I do. I was about to.
You have to remember, this is the first proper big screen superhero movie, and it was so well done for its time.
It's really good.
Yeah. So he speaks to his mum, Martha, that he needs to go, and she says, "Don't forget about me, but
always remember, son."
Yeah. And obviously he's always going to come back to her. He travels north to, do you think it's Alaska or the North Pole?
I did not understand where he went at this point.
So it was
somewhere cold.
Yeah. And he gets the urge to throw the crystal, and the crystal lands into the water and ice and creates the Fortress of Solitude.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here. First of all the icy bit, wherever it was, really did remind me of Elf. Yeah, when he's going, bye, Mr. Narwhal. You know, when he's going from the North Pole.
I think we'll have a slightly different vibe here.
Well, it did remind me of it. I'm assuming,
but
I think Elf might have taken inspiration from Superman.
Well, do you know what that might be?
Go on.
Elf used clumsy sets as a tool for laughter.
No, I know.
Hang on a second.
But also it was snowy. It's the snowiness that I think is the same.
Right, so every single snowy film reminds you of Elf.
It's just the kind of, it was the blockiness, the kind of, I don't know, it really...
Yeah. But when you look at some of the ice that Clark stands on, you can tell it's like polystyrene foam floating on water. When you see Elf stand on,
yes,
you can tell
exactly.
the same.
But I felt like it was.
Thing, and obviously,
I feel like Elf maybe thought this will be funny because it's like Superman a bit. It did remind me. It immediately reminded me of it.
Play.
The other thing to say is the Fortress of Solitude, right? I've heard that phrase loads. Like it's just a phrase that people use. I did not know that this is where it came from.
It's Superman's home.
Oh, is it the home?
Yeah, that's Superman's home.
Okay.
So what that is a replica of Krypton.
So I thought it wasn't his home. I thought it was like a barrier he was putting around himself to stop people getting in.
No, it's Superman's home.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it's both, but okay.
So teenage Clark Kent goes into the Fortress of Solitude where he sees a control panel which is operated by crystals, and he inserts one of the crystals and a hologram of his father Jor-El appears and starts talking to him and starts telling him about the history of Krypton and things like that. We're then seeing a very, very short montage of space and things like that to our very first appearance of Christopher Reeve in the Superman costume.
I need to pause you because you're jumping
hang
on.
1 second, which is 40 minutes into the film.
Oh, tell me about it. Right, so first of all, in the Fortress of Solitude, all I kept thinking was, when Marlon was banging on, I kept thinking, this character, Clark, he has got so much baggage on his shoulders. He has got 2 dead dads that he's living for, if you like, or he's been influenced by, and they aren't necessarily in tandem with each other. They've both got their own messages that, ultimately we find out at the end do kind of contradict. But I just felt like this kid, he's got so much pressure. He's the sole survivor of a planet, and he's also carrying the legacy of his adopted parents. So that's a lot.
Yeah, that's Superman.
I know, but it's a lot. The other thing to say is, so Marlon Brando goes on about not interrupting, not changing history.
Yes.
And it always comes back to this. I've said it before, where when rules exist in films about sciencey things, sci-fi things, it always makes me think of Back to the Future, and you can't change the space time continuum.
Back to the Future.
I know.
Do you actually, when I was watching this, and we get to near the final of the film, I thought Nicky's definitely going to reference Back to the Future.
Because I know that is also fictional, and yet in my head that is the blueprint for time travel and for sciencey, fictiony things. So in my head, I'm just thinking, well, hang on, if Marlon's saying that, how does that affect, So it always comes back to that in my head. This is because I don't watch enough sci-fi, so I don't see enough films that have their own rules that they have written.
Isn't this a good reason to have this podcast? Wait till we get to Avengers Endgame and they start time travel.
God. Anyway, so we did finally get to Clark Kent. We finally got to Christopher Reeve. But on my timings, because obviously I probably had a couple of adverts first before it was 50 minutes, and it really did feel like
47 minutes.
Okay, but it felt like I'd lived through every single one of those minutes quite a lot, because finally we're at the point where, this is the film I thought I was going to watch. This is what I assumed Superman was. And it was I'm not slagging off the backstories, or the origin stories rather. I'm not slagging them off, and we'll talk about them at the end. But it was almost like once we got to this bit, I was like, oh, finally, thank you. Now we can go. This is what I was waiting for.
Right. So, Christopher Reeve, Superman, flies at the screen and then cut to Metropolis. Very, very busy city, which looks very, very much like New York City.
It is New York, isn't it?
It's Metropolis.
The Statue of Liberty is there. I don't understand how this is a question I don't get.
Yeah, I think this was just unfortunate 1978 filmmaking, because the Twin Towers are in there as well.
But the point is, why aren't they saying it's New York when it's New York?
Because Superman's city is Metropolis.
Okay, but why are they talking, like when, I'm skipping slightly forward, but I'm sure no one actually cares because everyone's seen it. You know when Gene Hackman's looking at the map of the country and he's sort of saying he's going to get a new West Coast.
Yeah.
He talks about San Francisco. He talks about California.
Yeah.
And on it's the map of the US. So why are we not talking about the fact that they're on the other side of the US in New York with the Statue of Liberty and things that are iconic in New York?
No, because it's meant to be Metropolis.
I understand that,
so
but they shouldn't have the Statue of Liberty in there then, should they?
It's just one of them things.
It just, honestly.
You just got to ignore that.
I had New York all the way through this until right at the end when I realised it wasn't New York in their story.
In Superman world, there possibly is no New York, and New York is replaced by Metropolis.
Honestly, illogical. Okay.
So we go to a very busy newsroom where we're first introduced to Jimmy Olsen.
Marty McFly's brother.
Yes.
Dave McFly.
And Lois Lane.
Yes.
And Lois is a very hard-working, go-getting reporter. And the newsroom is very, very busy. Lots of people shouting and stuff. And she walks into Perry White's office, who's the editor.
Okay.
As he's talking to Clark Kent, and she's talking about the story, and Clark introduces himself and is immediately just ignored by Lois, which is one of the great things about the character of Clark. I don't know whether you picked up on this, but every time he's introduced, no one's asked.
No one gives a shit.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about him.
He's unnoticeable.
He's unnoticeable and dull. Yeah?
Yes. And it's interesting, and I know this is, telling you things you already will have thought about a million times years ago. But it's just fascinating the difference between how he holds himself, you know, as Clark and as Sue. I get.
I will go on to that.
I'm sure you're gonna frigging go on about it loads. But I enjoyed how he did kind of blend into the background. He, you know, and
his
when
voice is different.
And it's more than just the glasses. It is more than that.
Yeah. It's his posture.
It's his bearing. Yeah, it's everything. But I kind of didn't really care. I mean, I did know obviously he's Clark Kent and we're here for his story. I did know that, but I could see how he was, you know, not being noticed by people as they're both saying goodbye and everyone's saying goodbye to Lois and no one's talking to you. It's really interesting.
So they decide to go out to lunch together, and as they're walking, a guy points a gun at them and pulls them down an alley to rob Lois's purse. And this is where you see Lois is not just somebody who will just take anything. She sort of stands up for herself. She drops the purse onto the ground as Clark is trying to talk to the robber, going, maybe you don't want to do this. And he goes, well, I'll change after I've robbed this purse. The guy goes down to get the purse. Lois kicks him, to which the guy shoots, and Clark catches the bullet and pretends to faint.
Yes. Now, I enjoyed all of this. What I found interesting was, this is not the first time that you're saying, oh, we see that Lois is sort of, you know, can stand up for herself. We saw that in The Office. We saw that she can banter with the boss. You know, she's kind of, like you said, she's hardworking and everything.
Strong female character.
Yeah, but I hate that phrase because it implies, you know, all women are strong basically. You know, and they never say strong male. You never say strong male character, do you? So let's not go there. But what I liked about it is, as the token woman, I know there's the odd one or two here or there, but generally as the kind of the woman, female character for the whole film that we're all supposed to root for, she didn't come across as being someone who had that pressure. The character did not, or the actress did not have the pressure of having to carry all the female stories in the world on her shoulders. She just seemed very relaxed in her role. She seemed like she could do good banter with the boss. She wasn't overwhelmed by anybody in the office. She was friends with people. This again is the character that they've written. She's friends with people. They're all saying goodbye to where she's going. She's popular, but she's hardworking. She's crap at spelling. They keep telling her how she spelled things wrong.
Yeah, that was the theme right throughout.
Yeah, it's really funny. But she's someone who can hold her own in an office where she's quite overwhelmed by men, male-dominated. And what I thought was interesting was the bit that, I mean, I put when they're in the office before they go out to get held up by a gunman, Clark gets promoted over her. He's new and he's given like a job that she wanted.
City job.
Classic. Classic guy who turns up to get the job over the woman who's already been there. But I just thought she had real sort of presence. The character has presence.
Margot Kidder.
She's brilliant.
Actress,
She's brilliant.
So we then cut to a new character, Otis, who's played by Ned Beatty, walking through the streets where I put FBI officers because they were in plain clothes, they weren't in police clothes.
I don't know.
Detectives spot him and follow him to try and find Lex Luthor's lair. He walks underground into a train station along the tracks and goes through a secret door. One of the cops follow them and gets to the door and is pushed out by the door onto the train, just to show how ruthless Lex Luthor is.
Yeah, it really sort of hammers home very quickly that he is evil.
Yeah.
He's not just...
I mean, it's a complete tone shift.
Oh, it is. Because this is kind of comedic, isn't it? In the newspaper office, it's tongue-in-cheek comedic. And that is... And it is kind of also comedic with the kind of the over-the-topness of his lair and all that stuff. And yet he does just force somebody to be crushed by a train.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. So we're then introduced to Lex Luthor by the late great Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely camps it up like you wouldn't believe. Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
And we start to see a little bit of Lex's plot for buying up real estate, and he's also looking at the newspaper where there's nuclear missiles being transported.
It's always nuclear with Gene Hackman, hashtag Crimson Tide.
Yes. We then cut to Lois and Clark back in the newsroom where they are talking about what they're going to do. I'm sure Clark asks Lois out on a date at this moment, and she just sort of kind of ignores him a little bit and goes into the toilet, and then asks him to go and post a letter for her. And she tells him she's flying by helicopter to go and meet Air Force One.
I got all of that.
Yeah,
I followed this story so far.
You are so good at these types of films.
I'm much better at following the plot in the New York scenes than I am in the space scenes or whatever, you know.
So Lois boards the helicopter, and as she boards the helicopter, you're shown a wire that's a cable that's vibrating onto the floor. As the helicopter takes off, the cable catches the helicopter. The helicopter falls to the side of the building where Lois is in peril, about to fall out the helicopter.
Yes, and it's quite. I mean, the thing is, as I was watching this, I know that Superman's going to come and sort this. I know that this is the point, but it is sort of scary and grim, and you know, there's peril there, isn't there?
So Clark leaves the building, looks on the floor, sees Lois's hat, he recognises it, and then looks up and sees the helicopter in trouble. So he immediately runs to a phone box, to which the bottom half of the phone box is not there. So he ends up going through a revolving door to change into Superman.
Can I just point out? So this did take me out of the story. I'm all in, I'm watching it, I'm waiting for this to happen. I know Superman's going to come and save the day. But then, as he runs out, does he kind of pull his shirt open?
Yeah.
It just took me back to, I'm picturing little boys wearing Superman pyjamas under their school uniform. It just made me laugh out loud.
You have to remember, this is a comic book
I
image.
know. It just made me laugh. It was just like, of all the special effects and all the kind of the magical.
He's got the suit on.
He just rips open his top. It's like he's gone to school with his Superman pajamas.
How baggy is his cape behind his shirt? You know.
I had a lot of questions about this all the way through.
But what I do quite like about this costume is everything underneath it is Christopher Reeve. You know, in the modern costumes, they've got like latex on them. They got sprayed on muscles.
Oh yeah.
And this is just
the real.
It's the real deal.
He bulked up, didn't he? I read somewhere.
So he then flies up to help Lois as she's hanging out the helicopter. She falls and he captures her, and he says, and I love this bit, "Don't worry, I've got you." And then she goes, "You've got me? Who's got you?" And then the helicopter falls, and he catches it, puts it back on the pad, and lets Lois there. And she before he's about to fly, she goes, "Who are you?" He goes, "A friend."
Yeah.
And then she faints.
So as that all happened, the crowd who were watching from underneath the skyscraper, watching all this cheering, like, and I'm like, no, you would be what the fuck?
Yeah.
In Flight of the Navigator, another film that I base all my sci-fi knowledge on. Like they sort of, oh my God, shoot it, let's take it, let's investigate it. We've got to get the NASA involved. It's viewed with suspicion. Here, someone is flying and picking up helicopters, and they're just cheering like, hey, someone's, a hero's come. I wasn't buying that. I was just a bit.
To be honest, I was more concerned how close the people stood to the building with the helicopter.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But we're then treated to a montage of Superman doing Superman things.
Yes.
He stands on the side of a building where a cat burglar is crawling up the building.
Yeah.
And this scene always makes me laugh because he stood on the building and his cape is like he's stood up. No, he's not like he's on a vertical building. It's like he's a horizontal building. Especially when the burglar falls and then he flies down to capture him, and he captures him where his cape should be. Basically straight out, and it's not.
Yeah.
And there's several things in there. He helps a cat out of a tree. He gets some bank robbers.
Well, no job is too big or small. So there's the cat, and then there's Air Force One.
Yeah,
he saves anyone.
Air Force One loses an engine, and the pilot looks out when the plane goes all right again, and it's Superman replacing the engine, and he says, "Don't ask, just fly. Don't ask."
He's not being subtle. He's not being stealth, is he?
No, because he's showing the world this is his moment. This is his time to shine.
Okay.
He's the thing with Superman is he's not pretending to be in the background. He's
front and centre.
Yeah, front and centre. Now, one of the things with the whole superhero genre, right, which is interesting about the Superman character, is when you see the other superheroes like Batman, right? So you've got Bruce Wayne, and then he pretends to be Batman, or you've got like Iron Man, which is Tony Stark, and then he puts on the suit. In this, Superman is pretending to be Clark
Yeah.
Kent, so it's a complete opposite switch.
Yes.
Which, you know, I think is really, really good.
What I liked, and this is the point I wrote it down where we're up to in the film, I liked how it was obvious and clear that whether he is being Clark Kent, pretending to be Clark Kent, or he is being Superman, he is polite and respectful and not a dickhead.
Yeah,
Superman is obviously
he's on the side of
Mr. Good Guy, and he's solving all the problems of the world, so that's great. And it's the whole sort of Jesus vibe, you know, he's sent from another planet to save the world type thing, is very much there. But also as Clark Kent, he isn't like, his whole personality is not, if Superman is the good version of him and Clark Kent is the evil version or the stupid. He's just a bit bumbling, but he's still a decent guy, respectful. And I do have a whole issue with glasses as a thing that signifies a kind of nerdy, non-attractive person, because I love glasses.
Super slick hair as well, Clark.
Yeah, different hair. No, I get all that. But I do like the fact that both sides of, or the persona he embodies as Clark is still a really nice guy, and the Superman thing of himself is a nice guy. I like that.
So we then come back to Lex Luthor talking to Miss Texmarker about his plan.
Now, I had trouble with the fact that Lex Luthor keeps calling his girlfriend Miss Tessmacher.
Yeah.
I know that's her name, but like, why does she not get a, like? Is this just to show he's an oddball, that he's kind of random? Like it's
he's just. I mean, he's just tapped in the head, isn't he?
Well, so my question about a lot of this is, I understand. I'm watching this without the weight of baggage of being into superhero films. I don't know any other versions of this. I just am watching this in a standalone, watching a film. As I guess lots of people would have done in 1978, even though there would have been people who loved the comics. There'll be lots of people who just went to the cinema to watch it. But what I felt kept popping into my head quite often was, there must be all sorts of touches in this that are from the comic books. Because there's so many years of comic books, isn't there?
Miss Tessmacher is a character.
No, of course she is. But what I'm saying is specific tiny details, like the fact that she's called Miss Tessmacher, or the fact that there's a scene coming up, it might even be about now, where Gene Hackman is wearing a swimming cap. Now, he looks ridiculous, and I feel like he probably would have looked ridiculous in 1978. I don't feel like it's a fashion choice of the 70s. So then I'm thinking, is this because in like 1930 odd or whatever, there was a picture of him drawn that he had a swimming cap on, so this is canon, and this is, you know what I mean?
That's foreshadowing. That's foreshadowing.
Okay, and I understand that later, I get that, but equally, it just was right. I don't know, there's loads of little things that kept being dotted through, where I kept thinking, well, that's a strange choice, but maybe that's from a comic from years before, and I will never know, and I won't care enough to look it up. But it's just, I kept thinking maybe there are sort of, some of the choices were being directed by previous comic books. Just a thought, anyway.
Just a little. So the swimming cap, which is around about this scene, is foreshadowing for what you see later on. And
I have questions about that as well.
What actually makes me laugh, because I did spot this for the first time of viewing.
Okay.
I will spoil a little bit for the film later on. Is Lex Luthor is bald, right?
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
If you rewatch it, when he's got the swimming cap on, you can actually see sideburns underneath. Which if you when you see him later on, he doesn't have. So we now come back to the Daily Planet. Perry White is, let's just say, going off his tits, that he's not got any stories about Superman. Some other papers have got photographs and stuff. So he decides to try and bribe Superman, which to Clark goes, I don't think he'd do that, sir. And he goes, how do you know, son? And Lois Lane gets a note in her little diary saying, I'll meet you tonight at 8, a friend.
Yes.
So we then cut to the balcony of Lois's, I'm saying she's on a mega apartment to be where she is, it's pretty high up. And Superman arrives. And this is one of my favourite scenes in the movie.
Okay.
I love this scene.
Before you get into it, I'm just going to tell you the realisation I had at this point.
Yeah.
Now, it might not mean much to you because you don't watch the same things as me. Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Ever watched it?
No.
No, obviously. It's great, but the point is that Rashida Jones is an actress, and she's in Parks and Rec. She's in loads of other things as well, but I can't think of anything you might have seen. She's in The American Office. She's in a bunch
I've
of
seen The
stuff.
American Office.
So she is the spitting image of Margot Kidder. Not just in terms, she's got the same hair, similar hair, whatever. She has like a fringe, it's a bit long at one point. But in terms of vibe and attitude and comic timing and way she talks, I kept thinking, oh my God, it's Rashida Jones. And the character in Parks and Rec is Ann Perkins. It's Ann Perkins. This is Ann Perkins. It means nothing to you, but if anyone's listening to this who has watched Parks and Rec, they might agree with me.
Fair play.
Or not.
Fair play. Anyway, we get into Lois's line of questioning, which made me laugh. Her first question, are you married? So she's just seeing if he's
She's
single
up
and
for
available. Yes. Several questions. He always tells the truth, things like that. And then she drops. She doesn't drop the question yet. She actually lights up a cigarette, and he goes, "You shouldn't be smoking." And she goes, "Oh yeah, cancer." And he scans her lungs, and she goes, "Luckily," and he goes, "Luckily, not yet."
Yeah.
And she goes, "So you can see through
Creepy
things."
guy.
So she says, "You can see through things." And he says, "Yes." She goes, "What colour underwear am I wearing?" And she stood behind a lead planter, and he said, "I have trouble seeing through lead," which again, foreshadowing for later on.
I have written, will this be a thing later, in capital letters?
So foreshadowing, and as she walks around, does he say blue? I can't remember the colour of her underwear, and she gets very embarrassed.
He doesn't say blue, but then later he says that he likes pink, and is that a reference to
Oh no, it's pink. It's pink.
her
underwear.
underwear? Oh, I
And
didn't
he
get
says,
that.
"I like pink, yeah." So he does say the colour, and he says, "I like pink."
I was very pleased because I just thought he liked the colour pink, and I was like, oh, this is cool. He's not a blokey bloke.
Well, she asked him to look.
No,
so,
I know, but I
so
just
fair
thought it was
play.
good that he liked the colour pink and that we were degendering colours and stuff, and you know, Superman likes pink. But
He likes
okay.
pink because she's wearing it.
Oh, fair enough. That's spoiled
So
that
he
then.
then invites to take her on a flight.
Yes.
And I love this where the music is absolutely stunning from John Williams. And I
Yeah.
like the inner monologue of Lois, and she's thinking of, you know, what's going on and what's going to happen. And I really like that scene.
Okay, I didn't hate the scene, but it is incredibly cheesy.
It's 1978. It's been done
There's
so
no-
many times
There's no
since.
excuse. It's very cheesy. And I also read that she was supposed to sing that scene. And I kind of am glad she didn't, because I think that would be weird.
I've never read that.
Yeah.
That would be very, very strange.
She's supposed to sing it and it didn't work, so they'd had her speak it. But the point is, for me, what I took from that was whether it's being portrayed as the perfect date. It's floaty, it's dreamy, they hold hands.
Until he drops it and then
Well,
has to catch
okay,
it.
yeah. But it's very. She's so smitten. She's so like, for someone who's proper like squares up to the boss and takes no shit at work. She is sort of this kind of kitten inside who just wants to be stroked. I don't know if that's the right metaphor. And he's not playing games. He's totally respectful. He answers all the questions. I was going to say he's totally honest with her, but obviously he's not because he's like living a lie. But apart from that, he answers all her questions. And I liked the scene. It was a nice change of pace for a minute.
Yeah. And then Superman takes her back to the balcony and says, "If you ever need me, I'll be there." To which you suddenly hear the door knocking, and it's Clark. But Lois is she's in another stratosphere. She's not listening to Clark.
She's just called him Superman. That's the first time we've heard the word.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She names
Is
him
that
Superman.
is that a main key point?
Yeah, that's a key point.
Good job I'm here.
I was about to come to that. Anyway, Clark's talking and he's mumbling on and stuff, and then he thinks to himself, "I'm going to tell her." He takes off his glasses. He stands up from his hunched posture, and his voice changes. And that's one of the things I do like about Clark and Superman. He's much deeper voice, and he says in his Superman voice, "Lois, I have something to tell you." And then he realises what he's doing, panics, puts his glasses back on, and it says the traffic was really bad or something like that. Yeah.
What I liked about that, again, it's just a bit of a nod to Christopher Reeve being very good at this part, is you say he's hunched, and he is, but it's not like bent double like
No, but
it's
he's just
so
small.
subtle.
He makes himself a little bit
He does.
smaller.
It's so subtle.
Shoulders a
So
bit
when you
narrower.
see Clark Kent just in the newsroom, or whatever, you don't think, oh, that guy's got a bad posture. You
Yeah.
don't think anything about it. But it is so subtle, and then he just straightens up, and and it's fascinating. I do think it's a clever scene where you see the difference very visibly very, it's not special effects. It's the guy, it's the actor doing the job. And all he does is take off his glasses and stand a bit taller. And yeah, it's two different people. It's fascinating.
So we cut back to Lex Luthor, and
he's livid.
Yes, that Superman's about, and he's going to mess with his plan.
He's reading about it in the paper because Lois wrote it up.
Yep. So he then starts looking for meteorites that will have hit at a certain time point, as he knows that this rock will be like poison to Superman.
Yeah,
Kryptonite.
that felt like, yeah, I get all that, but it also felt like, how does he know? What? That's a stretch.
He's a super criminal with his super mind.
I'm happy to go along with it, but I just thought, yeah, it's a stretch.
So we then cut forward to the missiles being transported.
Yes.
And Otis has the job of changing the coordinates. We have a fake car crash where Miss Tessmark is dressed up like Marilyn Monroe in the middle of nowhere, lying on the floor with this crash car. So all the soldiers are distracted.
This was a gross scene.
Yes, but did you see who...
Larry Hagman is a perv.
Yeah.
Hated him. Hated him.
Anyway.
No, not anyway. It's a gross scene that made me go, ugh.
It's a 70s scene.
You've got to stop saying that like it was okay in the 70s that to happen. It wasn't okay for police officers to abuse their power and sexually assault women who are unconscious. Let's just put it out there.
So Otis changes the coordinates, and as they're driving away in the ambulance, which Lex had picked up this test marker, Otis had got the coordinates wrong.
At this point,
this is a bit of an...
Yeah, he's a bit of a cult. At this point, this was the first time I realised that Gene Hackman was wearing wigs. Yes. Can I point that out? I presume he's had different hair up until this point, but I hadn't noticed. And so my note here is Lex Luthor in a wig causes a road accident, but later on I've realised that they've all been wigs. So just to point that out, that point was lost on me until now.
So they go again, they block the road with a truck moving a house, and this time Miss Tessmarker changes the coordinates. You see Lois and Jimmy driving in a desert. Did you know where that desert was supposed to be?
Well, I assume it would be somewhere in America, where but Metropolis apparently is not in America.
Well, no, this is outside the Metropolis, but it's the J. Edgar Hoover Dam, isn't it? I think.
Oh.
I think it's
the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, the Hoover Dam. I think it's that one.
Have I been to Hoover Dam? Is that like Arizona?
Yeah, it's kind of like that way.
Oh, so that's a long way from New York.
Yes, because they're investigating this. There's a mysterious person who's paying lots of money for desert land that's worthless.
Yeah.
So they're investigating what's going on.
Yeah, so it will be like Arizona. Well, I don't know if it's Arizona, but like the west side of the country.
So we get back to the newsroom where Perry White is talking to Clark, and Clark suddenly hears a high-pitched frequency, and it is Lex Luthor talking to Superman about he's going to let off some poison gas, and if he doesn't come and see him, it will happen, it'll kill thousands.
No, again, I was taking out the story at this point. I think it was a nice touch that he can hear dog frequencies. That's quite an interesting... I thought that was good. But it did immediately make me think of how my 5-year-old niece is the only one who can hear our like cat deterrent alarm in the garden. When she's in the garden, she has her hands over her ears. It's just...
Superman can hear everything, but he has to focus
to
not hear things.
Okay.
Right? So he flies to the middle of the street, goes through the ground into Lex's lair, shall we call it?
We're calling it a lair.
Yeah.
It's Underground Park Avenue lair.
Yeah.
Which again is New York.
Smashes through the door, to which was the line.
What was it? Come in, it's open.
Come in, it's open, yeah.
Something like that. I laughed out loud.
Yeah. He then tells Superman his plan to hit the fault line with the 2 nuclear weapons, and it will basically get rid of, is it San Francisco?
Yes, which is California.
And California.
California's west coast, sorry.
And all his land will be very valuable then. And he says, I'm the only one who can stop it with the remote control. So he says, where's the remote control? and then he realises that Lex is sat on a lead case, and he goes, "You're stupid," and then throws him across the room. And Lex goes, "I wouldn't open that if I was you," and as he opens it, it's kryptonite.
Yes. Now, before we get into all of the next shenanigans, you missed the funniest bit.
Go on.
The funniest bit is when Lex Luthor is going through the map and showing how he's going to like get rid of the West Coast to get the new West Coast, and then it's got the names of the places, and there's Otisburg.
Yeah, he wrote on Otisburg.
That really made me laugh.
Yeah. One of the missiles is headed to the fault line, the other one's headed to another part of America, just so Superman couldn't save both.
Yeah.
And Miss Tessmacher comments to Lex that her mother lives where the other one is, and he goes, "Not anymore."
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit, and that's really chilling, that bit.
Yeah.
Proper evil.
So the kryptonite at this point had been put around Superman's neck, and he'd been pushed into the pool where Lex had been swimming, and he's struggling to stay afloat. Miss Tessmacher jumps in to save him, but before she takes it off, she makes him promise that he will save her mother first.
Yes. Now, there's a whole sort of sexual assault thing going on here as well, because she kisses him while he's unconscious, because he might not...
He's not unconscious, he just doesn't have much power.
He can't consent. And like, why did you kiss me? Well, didn't you let me later or something?
Then he was
it's not a defence.
And he flies out through the roof.
Yeah.
He saves that missile, but unfortunately the other one hits. Now, chaos ensues. He gets to the fault line.
So can I just stop you? Did that missile, is that why all of the definitely started crumbling?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was an earthquake.
No,
okay.
it hit the fault line.
Okay.
So Superman saves the other missile by throwing it off into space.
Yeah, saw that.
Which, if I remember right, impacts Superman 2, that missile he throws off.
Okay.
Actually shatters the disc with the 3 criminals in, right? But anyway,
spoilers. Okay.
Anyway, we head back to the fault line. Superman repairs the fault line to stop things happening, but the dam starts to crack, so he has to block all the water with fallen rocks. Jimmy Olsen's about to fall off the dam. He captures him and flies him off.
There's so much special effect going on here.
San Francisco Bridge cracks, and
Golden Gate Bridge.
A school bus is about to fall off. He saves that, but the one thing he can't save is Lois.
Right, so that whole section that you've skipped past so quickly.
There's so much in there.
There's so much, and special effects wise, I mean, I've not gone into what they actually did and how they did it, but it's impressive because I didn't stop saying 78 like that explains anything. At no point was I noticing, strings or, I bought it all. I was like, oh my God, the world is crumbling. I bought it all. I didn't stop to think about the special effects. So they did their job really well. I thought it was really good, really good.
Yeah. The scene with the falling rocks that blocks the dam. I have seen that scene cut into so many TV shows. I've seen it in Knight Rider, I've seen it in the A-Team, I've seen it in also, and it is that exact shot from Superman. It's not like they've redone, it is that exact shot. It was reused in so many different things. So Superman finds Lois.
Yeah, now this was awful.
She's died.
Because you basically, so again, I did not know what was coming.
Yeah.
I've got to point that out. So I'm watching it going, just like when the helicopter was having problems, okay, Superman's going to save the day. And you basically watch her be buried alive in her car.
Yeah.
And you think,
I remember as a 6-year-old kid that was haunting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it going, okay, Superman, come on, Superman. Yep, Superman's going to come and save the day. And he doesn't get there in time, and this really threw me when I was watching it, because, well, what's the point of him? That can't be the end. And when he drags her out of the car, and they're going, go on, you're going to cough in a minute, aren't you, and splutter, and it doesn't happen. And the really high shot, looking down as he's kind of just kneeling back, screams into the air, and you're like, oh shit, she died, and it really, really kind of. To say it upset me is too strong, because I'm aware this is but it really was like, oh God, that's not what I thought was going to happen. That shouldn't happen. Well, I thought it was very good because it kept me on my toes, basically.
So Superman hatches a plan. He flies off into space, flies around the Earth the opposite way. I mean, I don't think this actually would work, but let's just go with it. He flies the opposite way. and turns time back. But as he's doing it, he's hearing his late dad's voice, Marlon Brando's voice, saying don't mess with time and things like this.
Don't interfere in human history.
Yeah. He then sets the world going back the proper way to then goes to see Lois, and he's actually stopped everything from happening at this point.
But this is what I was saying before. So when he's whirling around backwards or whatever he's doing, he's got Marlon Brando saying, don't mess with human history, but he's also got Pa Kent saying, you were put on Earth for a reason or whatever. So he's got conflicting advice here. The two dads are kind of giving him different influences.
He's not listening to advice, he's gone with
just
his heart because he's lost the woman he loves.
Yeah, fair play.
So cut to Lois. Now what I never get about this scene, she remembers the stuff. She goes, I was driving along the road, there was big cracks in it and stuff like that. And he goes, don't worry Lois, everything's alright now, I'll never let you down again.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I let it all wash over me,
and then
to
he
be
goes,
fair.
I've just got to go and do something. And he goes, and then you see the next scene is inside the prison, and you hear all the alarms going off. And it is Superman delivering Otis and Lex to the prison.
Yes. Now, two things. One, you've just missed over a really important, I think, bit.
Yeah.
So when he saved Lois, and then he goes, whatever, she's like, she sort of realises that she never sees them in the same place.
Yes.
And she goes, could it be?
Conversation
Nah.
with Jimmy also runs up and goes, where's Clark? And she goes, you never see Clark and Superman, and she goes, no. But that's foreshadowing for Superman 2.
Well, obviously. But I thought we skipped over that too much. And then the other thing is when Superman goes and gets Mr. Luthor, so to say, and Otis, I'd realised that there were wigs involved because I'd seen wigs on the kind of heads in the lair, and I'd seen him wear wigs at this point. But he does the big reveal, and I just thought, well, why? Who cares?
He's in disguise.
So do the police know who he is?
Yes, so he's escaped, that's why he's living underground.
Okay, that makes sense then. Okay.
So we then cut to no trial, he's straight back into prison. That always makes me laugh, Lex Luthor. And then Superman flies off, and then you see him flying around the world, and then smiles at the camera, like as if he's breaking the fourth wall, and then flies off, and then the iconic
music
goes back in again, and the end.
The end.
Did you enjoy the movie?
Oh, okay, right. I've got so many things to say. Yes, I did enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't love it, but I did not. So first of all, I definitely didn't hate it, and I was very much engaged with it. Though I have, if I'd have just put this on without you making me watch it, and I press play, and like it's an old video, I press play, and then watched it from the start, I wouldn't have got past the first 10 minutes or however long it is in space. I just wouldn't have watched it. It's not me. It's not my thing. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't care what was going on. You know me, I'm not into sci-fi. But I had to watch it, and I kept watching it, and actually, I thought it was really, really good. It's like 3 separate movies. So the 3 sections could be whole movies in their own right. I wouldn't watch the first movie if they made it into a movie, but that's fine, lots of other people would. The second bit, which was in the farmyard, the farm country, I would possibly watch that in its own right. I did have the thought as I was watching it, which was like, it's really interesting watching Superman as a teenager because he's having to hide his powers from his peers, and he wants to go to the prom with the girl, and the boys are horrible and all that. And I thought, that'd be really good. They should make a film about that. And then I read later that they made Smallville, which is a thing. I didn't know it was called Smallville. I was watching it. I only read later, but I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. That's a good story as well. I really enjoyed the proper Superman, as I'm calling it, the proper bit. Once the origin story had gone, I get that it's useful to know where he comes from, but I just enjoyed the actiony bit. I have so many questions that maybe you know the answer to, maybe you don't, maybe there are no answers. I'll just you don't have to tell me them, but I'm just going to go through them as things that we skipped over that I didn't get to say. But first of all, Mario Puzo wrote the screenplay.
Yep.
So when I saw that, before I'd even begun to watch it, I saw it on IMDb. That blew my mind.
They went big with this. You look at the actors. I mean,
I know.
The cast of this movie is stellar.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Directed by Richard Donner.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was.
Weapon movies.
Yeah, but not at this point he hadn't, had he? No. Okay, so things I've got to, just general questions. For some reason, prior to this film, like I said, I'd had sort of ideas of it from cultural references throughout my life. I thought Lex Luthor was the editor of the newspaper.
No.
Is he never?
Never.
Right, okay,
No,
so
he's just a bad guy.
That's fine.
He's a wealthy
I completely have misunderstood that over time. I don't know where I got that from. But when the first sort of scenes in the Daily Planet were there, I didn't understand why that wasn't Lex Luthor. Okay, so here's some questions. Does he always have his costume on underneath?
I presume so, yes.
Okay. Where does the cape go? We talked about that.
Yeah.
Did he know he needed a phone box? Because the one with outsides was no good, so he looked again.
The phone box is a comic book trope.
Right.
That's where he would normally get changed.
But then he went into a revolving door because it needs sides.
So it was basically, that was just a comic,
it's a little
comedic
it's
moment.
a note for the fans. Okay. Did he know he could fly? Because in Smallville, I'm going to call it Smallville from now on. In Smallville, he could do everything he did was like human activity just done stronger, but suddenly he's flying. When did that come from?
So the years where he was watching the hologram of his father, all that was told to him. He basically gets the power from our sun. Because it's a yellow sun and not a red sun, it gives him his strength and power.
Okay. At one point, I think it's when he's heard the dog with the dog whistle.
Yeah.
He jumps out the window in his suit. How does he fly without the cape? His clothes change.
He doesn't need a cape to fly. That's just his costume.
His clothes change mid-air. Why no telephone box this time?
Yeah, well, he basically does it that fast. He's faster than a speeding train. So he's took the clothes off that fast that you just don't notice.
Okay. And then also, there's a few things all the way through that I thought, I can't wait to see this resolve itself. And then it didn't resolve itself. And then immediately I'm like, oh, great, there's going to be a freaking sequel. I don't like sequels generally. I just think if you can't tell your story in one go, don't tell your story or edit it better or whatever. However, one of the things I really wanted to see at the end was Miss Tessmacher's mum. We needted to see her saved.
Yeah,
and you never did? Well, that's really bad. That's bad. Bad writing. We should have seen resolution there.
Poor Mario.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Yeah, I just thought, because that could have happened towards the end, and even if it had just been a little, like, half a second look at him kind of just putting down a woman in New Jersey or wherever it was.
Did you also notice
Go on.
Superman didn't take Miss Tessmacher to prison?
Oh, yeah.
So
she wasn't a bad person.
No.
She just made bad choices.
She's in the sequel and helps get Lex out of prison with a hot air balloon.
Okay. The other thing that happened, which again is set up for the sequel, I'm sure, but my thought watching it for the first time, early on when Lois they're held up with a gunpoint and that she kicks the guy and then blah blah blah. I wrote down, I can't wait for when the big reveal happens and she finds out he's Superman.
Superman 2.
I was really like at the end going, she never finds out?
Niagara Falls,
Oh
Superman
God,
2.
Okay, so those were my questions that I had throughout the thing. There was a lot more origin story than I expected and that I needed, but okay.
To be honest, in modern cinema now, like there's a new Superman movie coming out this year, and they're cutting out the origin story because audiences now know. Where back then,
I didn't know.
Well, back then, a lot of people didn't know. Obviously, one of the points of the podcast is to introduce you to stuff that you haven't seen and stuff I haven't seen.
No, the point of the podcast is to be entertaining and interesting to other people.
But we are looking at genres that we wouldn't normally watch ourselves. So you're unaware of that. But back in the 70s, there's a hell of a lot more of the world was unaware of the origin of Superman, so they had to have it in. We're in the modern cinema now because we've had, the Superman movies, we've had Smallville, we've had the Lois and Clark, the Adventures of
Terry
Superman.
Hatcher.
We've had Man of Steel with Henry Cavill. We've seen the origin that much. We don't need to see it again.
I don't need to see it again. What I enjoyed was, because I did hear, I think you've probably told me that they're making it again this year, whatever.
I've just mentioned.
Oh, yeah, no, but you told me already. I knew before watching it. I have no interest in watching that. Now, I'm sure it'll be marvellous. I'm not knocking it. But this film is fine. It does not need a remake. This is a good film. I generally get turned off by CGI heavy films. I just don't need them. I don't want, it just takes it away from acting, really. It takes me away from performances if I'm just watching computer generated stuff. I thought the special effects in this were done really, really well, and some of them are slightly...
You couldn't see the strings?
Oh, no, not at all. Some of them are slightly amusing, like the running fast by the train, but even so, it doesn't matter. So I enjoyed how they did all that. I also really like watching a main character, superhero, hero, however you want to describe him, being humble and sincere. He's got superpowers, so he has all of the... he hasn't got the right to be up his own arse, but he certainly, you could understand if he was. There's no machismo. It's just someone who is comfortable with himself, even though he's acting like someone who isn't comfortable when he's Clark Kent. He acts like slightly nervous, but that's an act. He's not. He stands tall. He's proud of who he is. And I don't want to be all like, pop psychologist, but I'm saying it's because he was loved by all his parents. He was loved by 2 sets of parents. He's secure with who he is. He can walk tall in the world and do what he's meant to do without there being any insecurity or any kind of need to put others down to make himself feel bigger and all that kind of thing. So I enjoyed that as a little kind of psychological thing.
Which is a different trope to what you see with most of them, because they always come from a different type of background.
Yeah,
so.
nice. I liked that. I thought it was nice. I did think that... So there's a couple of things that I read around and I thought were quite interesting. So there's a blog post by Will Barber Taylor called Superman and the Politics of Hope. And he was talking about how, and I think he's talking about the initial comics and stuff like that.
It was sort of like Truth, Justice and the American Way was the original.
Oh, really? Lovely.
I mean, I wouldn't know how Superman of that era would fit in with today's politics.
This is the point. This is the point that he's talking about, because basically this Superman's created by 2 writers of Jewish descent. So we've got Jerry Ziegler and Joe Shuster. And they wrote about this, and they were very aware as these books, comic books, are coming out around for years, I believe, how the oppression of the world, back then, which hasn't particularly changed. So the idea was that Superman would stand up to the bullies, and he's a nice guy that will stand up to the forces of evil in the world. And I really liked that sort of came from a real world experience. And also, apparently, I was reading that there were radio episodes of Superman.
Yeah, so there's a black and white TV series. Was it George Segal, I think? Anyway, played Superman in a black and white TV series before the movies. So there's been many, many different iterations.
Well, in the radio episodes, apparently during the time, there were over 16 episodes. They basically took down the KKK. They just highlighted them while they were being quite prolific in the US at the time, but they highlighted them as being ludicrous, wrong, awful. And the numbers of people signing up fell as a result. So it kind of did some real world good, according to this article. I also got into a Reddit thread.
Oh God, there we go.
No, it was interesting. I mean, not all of it was interesting. Some of it was, but it was talking about how when this came, the film now we're talking about, back to the film, in 1978, the world was, or politics was slightly grim in the sense that this was post Martin Luther King being assassinated, post Kennedy, Robert and John, and post Vietnam, post Nixon. So political, or the authoritarian people at the time, or the powers that be, everything was burning. The world was, people were frustrated, disillusioned. Politics was terrible. And so then here comes Christopher Reeve playing this really good guy who just wants to help people, and this sort of a moral sort of crusader. And so it was a nice time for him to turn up and have someone to believe in for Americans. It's an interesting sort of timeline of stuff that had gone on then.
So I would like to add that I think a great companion piece to watch with this is the Christopher Reeve documentary.
Okay.
Christopher Reeve is the real Superman. There's obviously the tragedy of what happened to him, where he fell off a horse, broke his neck, was paralysed from the neck down. It's a very emotional documentary, but well worth watching.
Okay. I was thinking about whether I'd watch this again. First of all, I should point out that in the last few weeks I have watched it twice. This is the first time that I have watched one of your films twice. And it was mainly because I'd watched it once and then I'd sort of made my notes and forgot about it, and then I had to watch it again. But it wasn't a problem watching it for a second time.
If it came on television and you were flipping through, would you stop?
So here's what would happen. If it came on television, in a bit of distance of time, because I have like seen it twice in the last 3 weeks, I would record it and then watch it when I wanted something to just blaze out to. I'm starting to get a category of films in my head that you have made me watch. And the category is, probably wouldn't watch it during a busy period of my life, but come Christmas, if it was on, and I've got time to just veg out in front of the telly, yes, I would absolutely record it to watch on one of those days after Christmas.
So another question, obviously, as you know me, Superman's one of my top films.
Yeah.
Do you understand why I like it now? Because it is such a good film, but it's also a key part of my formation of liking films when I was younger.
Yeah, I get that if you were 6 or whatever in 1978, this would have been all you wanted to dress up as and all you wanted to be.
I had my pyjamas.
Of course you did. Of course you did. You still do, I imagine.
With a clip-on cape.
Oh my God. Yeah, I completely get how this was an attractive film to watch as a kid. I understand that it's, and because of that, the nostalgia and the childhood, I get all that. But I do think, with that in mind, considering I'm 47 and I've watched it for the first time and I quite enjoyed it, it shows that it's a fairly decent, solid film.
So there's 2 films now that you've liked.
God.
Rocky
Oh
and
my
Superman.
God.
So, next week it's your turn to choose a film.
Yay!
Have you decided
I'm back.
what it's going to be?
Yep, I have already watched it. I've already made my notes and I will tell you about it later.
And if people want more, where can they find you?
I'm at nickybond.com, or you can just search for the Lisa McAuliffe stories online. How about you?
I can be found at Toffees or Us on YouTube.
Fabulous. Thanks for listening, everyone, and until the next time, bye-bye.
Thank you, we'll see you later.